We're starting chapter 6, which is integers and the coordinate plane. So you're writing this down in your notebook, so write this down. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and hit play. I also need you to draw the picture, so this shows you the coordinate plane. So the coordinate plane is just a fancy way of showing the x and the y axes. And we have four spots on the coordinate plane. We're going to label those Roman numeral 1 for upper right, Roman numeral 2 for upper left, Roman numeral 3 for lower left, and Roman numeral 4 for lower right. We're going to learn more about this throughout the chapter. So please write down your notes, hit pause if you need to, and then hit play when you're ready to move on. So 6.1, write this in your notes. So 6.1 looks at integers. So just write down the title. So what are integers? So terms that we need to know for this chapter. So integers are whole numbers, their opposites, and zero. You're writing this down in your notebook. Other terms to keep in mind, so please write this down. Whole numbers are whole numbers and zero, but there are no negatives for whole numbers. And the last term you'll need to know are natural numbers. So natural numbers are whole numbers. There's no negative and there are no zero. You cannot count zero. So those are natural numbers. Go ahead and write those in your notes. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and move on. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video. So here's a number line, which we're going to be using a lot in this section to show integers. So we always start with 0 in the middle of our number line. To the right we have our positive numbers, and then left we have our negative integers. So again, these are integers, so they're whole numbers. So whole numbers like 6 and its opposite, which is negative 6, and 0 is also included in our integers. So write this down. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video when you're ready to move on. So one thing we really need to understand is, what does the negative sign really mean? So negative sign has a lot of different meanings. It could be I'm subtracting numbers. It could be I'm taking away numbers. It's the difference of two numbers. And for me, it also says the opposite of. So negative 4 is the opposite of positive 4. So go ahead and write this down in your notebooks. So for me, again, negative 4 is the opposite of positive 4. So to me, that's what the negative also means. It's their opposites. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video when you're ready to move on. Okay, so you're going to write this down in your notebook. Here's example 1. We want to write an integer to represent the situation. So copy that down. So our first situation is we have a balloon that floats 5 feet above the ground. So how can we write that as an integer? Is that a positive? Is that a negative? Well, we know it's not 0. And then our next one is an anchor is 15 feet underwater. So for our balloon 5 feet above ground, we can say the integer is plus 5 feet. An anchor is 15 feet underwater. We're going to write that as negative 15 feet. So those are integers, and we're using them to represent the situation. So you're going to copy this down into your notebook, and you're going to write an integer that represents each situation. And you should also see a text box on the right, and you're going to enter in your answers there. Don't forget to use the negative and the positive signs to show your answer. You can pause the video, and when you're ready to move on, go ahead and hit play. Okay, copy this down into your notebook. Here's example 2. We're going to practice graphing integers. So I want to graph the integer and its opposite. So I have the number 3. So I'm going to draw my number line. I was going to start with 0 in the middle, and I'm going to have plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. So I'm going to put a nice big dot at my 3, and then I have a negative 1, a negative 2, and a negative 3, so it's opposite. I'm going to graph that there. So I'm going to do the same thing with my negative 2. Draw my number line, start with 0 in the middle, negative 1, negative 2, put a big dot where negative 2 is. Here I have positive 1, positive 2, put a big dot where positive 2 is. So we're going to practice graphing integers. So write that down in your notebook. If you need to pause, go ahead and pause the video. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and move on. So now you're going to practice these. You're going to graph these in your notebook. We can't really graph them on the computer, so there is no text box on the right, but I will check these in your notebook tomorrow when I see you. So I need you to graph the integer and its opposite. And I need you to graph each of these on a different number line. Please don't use one number line for all of these. So I want to see different number lines. And I should see these in your notes tomorrow during class. Okay, we also have to have some word problems. So here, we're going to just use some integers to show this. You start a game with 10 points. Sorry, it should be with 10 points. That means I have plus 10 points. I gain 4 more, so it's a positive 4. But then you lose 7, so I've lost now 7 points. I'm just showing each gain or loss of points by doing this. What's my ending number of points? So 10 plus 4 was 14 minus 7, so my final end is a positive 7 points. Okay, we're going to continue on with that word problem, so you're going to add b to that. So after one more round, you have a total of 10 points. How many points did you gain or lose in that final round? Well, remember we just calculated this and we said we had a positive 7. So to get from positive 7 to 10, I must have gained 3 more points. So please write all this down in your notebook. Make sure it's all there so that I can see it nice and neat. Please take your time. When you're ready to move on, you can move on. Okay, so you're going to do some on your own. You're going to write these down in your notebook first, solve them in your notebook first, and then write your answers in the textbooks on the right. So try your best and give me some answers. When you're ready to move on, you can move on. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video. All right. Are there any remaining questions? So what was this whole entire section about? This whole entire section was just about integers.